I'm seeing on my YouTube, waiting for Joe Chaffee, and I just asked. Now I've just asked a number of people.
Oh, they
You
just
know, are you
it
guys
just
watching us?
yeah,
And
it just came up.
you did.
Yeah, it just came
A
up.
lot of people are saying no, no, Joe, no, no, no. Jason Schaefer, Chuck Cardillo.
Yeah, they're running behind.
Oh,
I'm seeing it now.
oh, now there you go.
Yeah, see,
Now
yeah,
I see.
what a delay that was.
That was a
That
long
was a
delay.
long delay. Oh
All
boy.
right.
So anyway, yeah, I guess a lot of people are on the internet right now. So
All
let
right. Well, before you say anything else,
yes.
let me just say that we have 24 likes, so we've got to go up to that 100 mark. So for those of you hearing me right now, hit that like button, hit that
So that
thumbs
right,
up.
because you don't want one like a Joe Chaffee emoji sad face. You want a Joe Chaffee emoji smiley face.
Yes,
Right, pins and needles, needles and pins.
and
A happy man
happy
is a
Joe.
man that
No,
grins.
it's a happy
Happy
Joe
Joe
that
is a Joe
grins.
that grins.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so get us up to 100, please. Just hit the like button. And of course, if you like the show that much, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the old subscribe button using your Gmail account. And then you can get notifications every time we come on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And we have a super chat hit, Mr. Rayo.
Mr. Wetzel.
Yes, Doug Wetzel. Thank you. Coffee time.
Yeah.
Agreed. Uh, agreed for sure. I looked at a lot of stuff today, and I've come to the conclusion that I really have absolutely no clue what's going to happen in the medium and long term. Do you remember models being so chaotic like this? I mean, it seems like, especially in the last week, where there's just no consistency whatsoever from run to run, particularly the GFS. It's been horribly inconsistent. You know, a wrapped up low 1 minute, the next run it's gone. Then it's not even then it's back again in a different form. Then it's gone again. It's just incredibly chaotic.
And there has been a lot of buzz on the internet about the excuse me, about the polar vortex splitting up.
Which is it's going to split it. It's going to split again in a couple of days, and it's going to stay split for about 5 days.
It's brought the last couple of weeks that splitting has brought Arctic cold to China and Russia and Europe, but not here in the United
Well,
States.
it can't be everywhere, and also Japan too, especially northern Japan. They've gotten twice their average, and northern Japan,
Hokkaido.
yeah, northern Japan it gets a
Yeah,
lot of snow, and they're double the normal there. So, yeah, I so it can't be everywhere. So we're kind of on the opposite end of that, and it's not just here in the Northeast, Mid Atlantic. It's also in the Great Lakes. It's in the Ohio Valley. It's just been we've been in this just quiet stretch. It just seems and dry, and of course, some weird places are seeing snow across northern Texas and through central Louisiana and central and northern Mississippi. Not unheard of to get snow there, but uh, getting snow of size is a little bit unheard of. Yeah, it's just the whole pattern is just very strange, and I think between the polar vortex splitting and the Arctic oscillation, those higher than normal pressures across the Arctic region in an extreme fashion, the blockiness in the Atlantic. It's just the atmosphere is just an absolute mess.
it is, and the one thing about I mean, you mentioned how the GFS is all messed up or whatever. I mean, it was for a while. It looked like that right around inauguration day next week, there was going to be some sizable or significant storm near or along the eastern seaboard, and all of a sudden, the last couple of days,
It's
it's gone.
gone,
It's
and you
gone.
don't have any confidence to know that it might not. It may come back,
It may
and
come
and
back,
then maybe
right?
gone again. Look at
Yeah.
even now this system for this weekend. Now all of a sudden it's evolved into a deeper upper feature, a front with a wave that's going to develop on it. When it all looked like yesterday it was going to come through dry. It's just it's hard to gain any kind of traction in terms of what is or isn't going to happen.
there is no traction right now. I mean, you look at this and you say, well, it's interesting. Will it be here tomorrow or even later tonight? And the main thought that crosses one's mind over the last few days is no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So, I thought maybe we'd start tonight with I got the teleconnections. There's been a little change in the teleconnections that's evolved over the last few days, and I want your never to be humble opinion on this, uh, because I have a theory. Steve Lapointe hitting a super chat. Thank you, Stephen, very much. Really appreciate it. And he does recommend you hit the like button if you haven't already. We're less than 40 away from getting us over the 100 mark, and Joe and I like to see the likes get over
yeah.
the 100 mark. Okay, so here's my theory on this. Um, all right, let me set this up.
He's got a theory, folks.
I've got a theory. Okay. Or at least a possible theory. So let's start with the Arctic oscillation, okay? And we're this has pretty much been the same, strongly negative now since the beginning of the year. Actually, even going before that, right before the beginning of the year, we're getting a little spike up, close to but not quite the neutral line right now. Then it goes back down. And then you have a bunch of them that spike it up again toward the neutral line. A few members even go positive at the end of the forecast period. But there's still some that turn negative, and there are a couple that are even strongly negative. So, all in all, if you want to just kind of average them all out, you just figure you go with the mean, and you figure that it'll probably be negative through the second half of the month. Okay, so there's no change there. Here's where there is a change, and this is where my theory comes into play. You tell me what you think. So the Pacific North America Index, or the PNA, which we have been told, and also experienced the fact that when the PNA is positive, you have a trough generally in the east, you have a ridge generally in the west, and a lot of forecasters who like to use teleconnections uh, like to see the PNA in a positive position. But it's actually forecast, Joe, to go strongly negative, okay? Which would say trough in the west or troughing in the west and ridging in the east. Now, here's the here's the rub, and that's the NAO, which is negative and is forecast to stay negative right through the end of the month. Now, I'm thinking that maybe we might, for snow lovers, maybe we might be better off with the PNA going negative at, coinciding with the negative NAO, because the NAO, the problem with that we've had right now is that the NAO has been so strong, it has been suppressing everything to the south, correct?
Right.
Okay, so I'm thinking the negative PNA is going to try to make a little ridging in the east, and then countering that will be the negative NAO pushing back in the other direction, and maybe that creates a little bit of a battle zone in between the two, where you wind up with, I don't know, maybe the chance for some overrunning events down the road.
You're talking about an unusual alliance,
Well, it's not
things
the
that you would
first
not
time.
normally.
If you remember back in March of 18, we had an off the wall negative PNA, an off the wall negative NAO, and an off the wall negative EPO, which I think is going to be the most important one, is the East Pacific oscillation going negative, because that at least will give
The cold.
the cold,
Yes.
give a cold signature. Where that cold signature lines up, how far east it gets is another matter. But I'm just thinking that maybe with the we haven't really been able to do anything with the positive PNA, so we certainly can't do any worse for snow lovers with the negative PNA. And if you've got the one force trying to force ridging in the east, while another force is trying to push suppression at the same time, that maybe you set up some kind of battleground in between where you get overrunning with flat waves rolling along. I don't know. It's just an idea I had in my head.
It's kind of like Joe. You're saying, all right, well, if this doesn't work, and you're reaching into the cabinet here, maybe I could take this and mix it with that, and let's see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, why not? Certainly, if you look at the fact that we've been in a position where you think we should have been able to get something, and that hasn't happened, so why don't we try it another way? I don't know. It's just like I said, it's just a theory I have.
Well, we so far nothing has worked. All I've seen is a plethora of waves passing to our south. Today, well, not today, but first of all, in terms of temperature, we're going to probably see the warmest temperatures that we've had around here since the 28th of December by the end of the week, with temperatures flirting near 50. And we'll probably stretch this run of no precipitation in our area out to 11 days. Where the last time we had any kind of precip here was on the 4th of January. And it looks like it's going to continue that way all the way out till this coming Friday before the sharp weather front, the sharp cold front comes on through early on Saturday, bringing us a chance for some showers and then a drop in the temperature.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a little bit of a wave that develops on it, perhaps. uh,
Well, we've been talking about that now for the last week.
Because there ain't nothing else going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm waiting for. I'm sitting here now. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't exactly badmouth quiet weather, and we've certainly had that. But after what we went through last year, I kind of would like to see at least a little bit about why, Joe. Why is it that when we were working full time, every other day we had to worry about getting in early
Yep,
before the snow started,
yep.
or we'd have to get outside. It was like bitterly cold, frigid temperature. All of this active weather. Now you and I are kind of like in retirement mode now, and nothing is happening.
I'm in a different state and I got snow. I'm in a
You have
state
to
where
go all the way to you have to go to Georgia for all
I
for
know I'm in a place
get
where
snow.
the average annual snowfall is about 6 inches.
Right.
Okay, and they've seen snow here 3 times already this winter. They had 5 inches on Christmas Day, on
That's why
Christmas
you
Eve
that's why
night.
you keep going there, right?
Yeah. Uh, well,
And
I got the satellite up tonight. I had a lot of clouds up your way today, but it looks like they're thin. They've pushed the cloud line. Looks like it's pushed to the southeast now.
the clouds were caused by an upper air disturbance and moved through the northeast today, and we've got another upper air disturbance for later tomorrow and tomorrow evening. So that means that tomorrow, I think we're probably going to see clouds again. These clouds will be mostly mid and high level, so they'll dim the sun, but it won't be again, it will not be a bright sunny day tomorrow. And then hopefully, for goodness sake, hopefully we'll have sunshine and a gradual warming trend coming our way. We've been getting teased by this for Wednesday, Thursday, and again maybe near 50 on Friday. That's going to be delightful before Mother Nature rings the curtain down and brings a shot of colder air in here or chillier air in here for the week.
Yeah, let's just let me bring up the watches and warnings map and take a look at what's happening. Got a lot of high wind warnings up in western South Dakota, eastern Wyoming, virtually almost all of the state of Montana. Actually, let me stand corrected. Those are high wind watches that are up, and a couple of high wind warnings so far, if I'm reading the color scheme correctly. The West Coast flash flood watches up for Oregon and Washington along the coast there, and some winter storm warnings in inland northern Washington state. We still actually have a few winter weather advisories left over in central Louisiana from the heavy snowfall that they got there. And in fact, I did have this is as of 7 a.m. The snow amounts that on the plot on the map plot. Austin Austin got 2 inches. Uh, Killeen, Texas got two, but outside of to the east, four. Waco, four. Again, this is as of 7 a.m. because they were still winter storm warnings up this morning at that time, and some heavy snows pretty much between Waco and San Angelo, where some areas got 8 inches plus, and then there was this area in East Texas, up Texas Route 79 between Bryan and Tyler, where there was a large area that got 6 inches. And in Louisiana, from about Alexandria northwestward, a large zone of 8 inches plus. Again, there are probably going to be some added amounts to this that fell after 7 a.m., but certainly from the standpoint of impact, although somebody said I'm not supposed to use the word impact. It's you can impact a tooth, he said, but weather doesn't impact. Okay.
I don't understand why you can't use that for weather.
I don't understand why anybody gets so worked up on
About your teeth?
about minutia. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So this affected area with an affected with an A, not effected with an E, covering southeastern New Mexico, northern Texas from west to east, a pretty wide swath. Dallas, I think, got an inch out of this, was just on the edge, and Fort Worth was just outside of an inch. Um, and then it ran across northern third of Louisiana, and then on up into parts of Mississippi, from Jackson north to about Tupelo. So, uh, of course, I just didn't have no accumulation here. The snow fell out of the sky, but temperatures were in the mid 30s, so it didn't snow hard enough for it to stick.
I wonder how our friend Mr. Green did the last day or so.
Well,
Even if he
just
looked at it,
outside of Houston, they had an inch of snow.
yeah. So I mean, like they probably, you know, went, full scale and preempted like half the day's broadcasting.
You would, yeah, of course, absolutely. For a coating to an inch, shut the whole city down.
Absolutely.
All right. So as far as snow going forward, though, there's not a whole lot happening. Again, you look at the surface map at the moment. This was let's see if I got the 21Z map. This low that's now in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico is weak. There's still some precip, but it's mostly rain in the southeast. Not a whole lot of it, and that's moving on away. And since I didn't have time, let's just see if I could bring up the zoom radar. Uh, let's see what kind of rabbit I can pull out of my hat here. Okay, it'll just have to give it a little time to load, widen it out. And I mean, there's a little bit of precip left now in parts of coastal North Carolina, scattered around in South Carolina and in parts of Georgia, and that's it. And we got a ton of precip beginning to move into the Pacific Northwest, uh, northwestern Oregon, and then on up into Washington State. So it's pretty loaded there. That heavy rain, that is moving eastward, and there's not a whole lot of probability when it comes to snow. I think I lost what did I do with WPCs? There it is. So this is the 72-hour probability of at least two. And the action for the most part is up in the Northwest and in the Northern Rockies. A little bit going on in the Northern Plains, Northern Minnesota, with about a 30 to 40% chance, or a little higher in some places, uh, up to 50% uh, up in the northern, some along the Canadian border. And in the Northeast, very little. Some lakeshore action east of Lake Ontario in the next 72 hours. Otherwise, very little, if any, snow forecast to fall in the northeastern part of the U.S. So there.
And that's going to be about just the that's about the only place or the only region that's going to be seeing any real activity in terms of wintry precipitation for this week. And here, again, we're relying on that cold front that's associated with that same system to move on through early on Saturday, probably providing us with some scattered showers. Now, that's another thing, Joe, is that front on Saturday didn't really look like it was going to be providing us with very much more than just a few scattered showers, and now it looks like it's maybe more of a robust punch,
Yeah.
so to speak, of shower activity here on Saturday.
And meanwhile, I'm just looking at where there has been a cornucopia, a plethora, a lot,
Ooh,
a lot of winter weather has been to our friends in Europe, where the cold air has parked itself, and they've been getting these upper down from the Arctic region and into northwestern Europe. There's another one that's coming through right now. And I still, I don't pay enough attention to the weather in Europe to understand how the atmosphere behaves there, because it's much more chaotic than it is where we are, where everything seems to have this sort of normalized west to east motion much of the time, not all the time. But here you get upper lows that they drop southeast and then they swing around and they move northwest. And but this is a very, very cold flow that continues. Just if you follow the jet here, your air is coming straight from the Arctic region down into the Mediterranean, and they're going to see snow in Italy, in southern Italy, in the next couple of days, which doesn't happen too often. And I brought this up because I'm thinking that if we see some sort of radical change in the overall pattern in Europe, that might mean that we could see a radical change in the pattern over the U.S. And I mean, there is a bit of a change in that the upper flow becomes more westerly rather than northerly toward the end of the forecast period. A deep upper low forms north of England. So that could be, a bit of a change, although it will be cold. It'll probably be a little less harsh. And maybe we won't see those snows going down to places like Madrid, where, they get 20 inches every, 60 or 70 years, like they did the other day. But, Joe, you look at his surface map, you know, it's covered with systems that are producing snow over a variety of areas. There's there's a low that's dropping down in the Mediterranean with some rain and snow in Italy, and then another one that follows over the weekend with a little bit of rain and snow, and then yet another one that follows early next week. But then the flow kind of changes a bit as we head towards a January 20th and beyond. The weather systems, instead of dropping southward, are moving across northern Europe instead. Still gets in some cold air, but it's a little bit of a different flow. So maybe if it changes there, it's going to change. It'll change somewhat here.
Well, one thing I noticed here, Joe, is that toward the end of the week, an upper level ridge of high pressure is going to build across the Iberian Peninsula. That's Spain and Portugal, and as far north, moves as far north as Ireland and the United Kingdom. So those places that were frigid and locked in with cold, and even especially Spain with all that snow, it looks like a nice moderation, at least in that part of Europe, Western Europe, for the end of the week.
Well deserved, I think. Excuse me. Just give me a moment here to get my drithers. I just opened up a software program which I shouldn't have opened up, and it may slow the computer down. I don't want it to do that. So there we go. Let me just close it. You guys, it's my video recording software that I have that I do weather in 5 on and weather in 10. By the way, for my Patreon members, if you didn't see it, I put up a weather in 10 before the show started, so you might want to check that out. So I brought up the upper air for the GFS on this new run, which of course is somewhat different than what was on the old run. The one thing that has evolved in the last couple of days is the fact that this next trough that is moving into the Great Lakes is actually now a really vigorous multi-cutoff low that winds up over Lake Superior and Lake Michigan by the time we get to early Saturday morning. Pretty sharp upper low here that swings through, and that's going to be our weather maker now for Saturday, which, as you said, looks more robust. And then another trough follows early next week, but there's not going to be a whole lot for that to work on, so I'm not expecting too much from that. Going forward, Joe, the thing that stands out to me is the fact that you've got this big blocking high that develops over Greenland, and it does bring troughs down into the U.S., which initially one drops down to our west, but then gradually, as we move our way through the long range, it does start to shift the troughing more to the east. And now, of course, we talked about those teleconnections with the negative PNA, and you can see it here because now all the models get to this point where there's this troughing in the west. You still have troughing in the east. You still have blocking up in Greenland. And then you've got this big upper high that's building up along 160 into Alaska. So it is a bit of a different look. What it means, I don't know. There's so many different ways you can have an inactive, but you can have a pattern that winds up leaving you high and dry in many respects. The one thing I will say is that this pattern does not look overly warm. It may not look overly cold, but it doesn't look overly warm either.
no, pretty seasonable then. I mean, as you
Might
just
be,
mentioned, I mean,
yeah.
nothing. It does not look like we're going to be seeing any frigid Arctic outbreaks, at least in the immediate future. And nor, however, does it look like we're going to see those temperatures soar well up into the 50s or even the 60s, or dare I say, close to 70,
No,
like
that's
we've
not going to happen.
past winters. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. What we're going to watch basically is this: the region up here is your block, and you've got this, you've got lower pressures out in the Atlantic again. You got another, what looks like another wrapped up storm, if that's right, that's offshore. So this would feed cold air down to the south. So I guess the question in the long range will be, if what comes out of all this stuff that's in the Pacific. Does it eventually start shooting energy eastward? I don't know. I'm really confused. And the other thing is too, is as it evolves on this particular run, as it evolves this whole setup in the east, it's got this deep upper low in the long range, and then it's got some kind of diver that comes down and becomes part of this. Uh, and then then it gets to where it gets to. I I I don't want to even spend a whole lot of energy on it, because I know in the next run it's just going to be something. It's going to be something maybe similar, but it's going to make some big differences and changes somewhere. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of energy trying to figure this out, when I know in the next run I'm going to have to spend a whole lot of energy trying to figure that one out.
Well, what are you going to do?
I know. So let's, as far as Saturday is concerned, here's a question for Saturday. There's that diver I was telling you about, way, January 25th, 6th. Who knows if that's right or not? But let's just look at the short term, okay? So what do you think of the possibility that this front comes through first, gets hung up, and I'm showing you this is the 12Z run, okay? The 12Z run has the front on top of us by Saturday morning and a wave near Allentown, okay? And then it goes on up into Canada, and then goodbye. The 18Z run has the front just a little bit further to the east. Wait, I'm sorry, Joe. It's taking a long time to load these maps. It seems like it gets the front through.
It's technology,
Yeah,
Joe.
I know. It gets the front through, and it's got the wave down in off the coast of southern Virginia by Saturday morning, and then it starts to change the rain over to snow in upstate New York and in New England, and maybe even briefly in northern New Jersey. I mean, do I dare say the fact that, is there a chance that you could get that front to come through a little sooner and a little further east, and maybe the wave is just a shade, starts off a little bit further south, and you wind up perhaps with a cheap thrill where it changes over to snow before it ends. I mean, that's the only thing I can grasp at here with regards to any kind of winter weather.
Well, again, a lot is going to depend upon the movement of that front, whether it gets hung up, whether it just keeps on moving. I've been going back and forth. I've been seeing the models going back and forth with this scenario for the beginning of the weekend, and I don't even know. I who do you? There was a game show that Johnny Carson hosted before he did the Tonight Show. Who do you trust? And it would do very well to use that title now for looking at the various models. Who do you trust? What do you trust? GFS, Icon, European? I don't know.
No, I don't know either. I didn't even look at the European. I don't know. The European looked kind of the same. I really didn't have too much argument with it. Then the low lifts up into Canada. We turn cold and dry. Monday, that next trough comes in, but there's nothing much for it to work on. So you do get a wave that develops east of North Carolina. You see it there way out in the ocean. So that's not of any consequence. And then if you believe the GFS, we're going to be dry until maybe the end of next week, where another front pushes in from the west and another wave develops and moves northward. But who knows if this is real or not? And it's got another. This is another case, Joe, where the GFS wraps up. What is that? A 9? I can't even read it. It's so. Is that a 963 low or an 83 low? I can't see.
I can't see either on my screen.
There's a whole lot of isobars around that I can see. No, I'm sorry, it's a 963 because I see the 968 isobar in Maine. So the gradient there is ridiculous. So who knows if that's even real or not. So why don't I say let's leave it at we kind of have an idea what might happen Saturday, and after that, let's just put it all on the table and wait to see what the models do in subsequent runs. Because the Canadian was doing something different, trying to bring up another wave up, or I think early next week. Let's bring that to fruition. Where was it? I'm having here the Canadian kind of matches it up. Here's the Canadian's view for Saturday, where it actually does have the front a little bit further east, so it does argue that maybe there might be a brief change before ending, and then yeah, more like the middle of next week, Joe. It brings up some low up from the south. It looks like the GFS only 2 days sooner, so who knows? We'll just leave it at that. Who knows?
I really was kind of, I really was kind of hoping that we were going to see some kind of a system of significance along the eastern seaboard um, around the 19th or 20th of
Well,
January.
here's the Canadian has it. The Canadian has it right on January 20th.
Yeah,
A cold rain with a low developing just offshore.
but it doesn't match up. It
It's
doesn't match up with some of the other models. You like to see
no,
all the models on the same page, which rarely happens, I admit. But when you see just one sticking out or one outlier, and the others are have their own definition of what's going to happen, you just throw your arms up in the air and say, I don't know. We'll
yeah,
see.
I
We'll
don't
see.
know. All right, let's come back full
And
screen.
I still think that we're going to see more of an active and wintry and maybe even snowier weather pattern. But we're gonna have to wait until February and March to get into that. I think it's going to be more a backloaded winter as opposed to a front-loaded winter. Even though we just like last year, Joe, although not exactly the same date. Last year, that big snowstorm, 22 inches in Albany on the 1st and 2nd of December.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big snowstorm, New York, 10 and a half inches mid-December. And,
Right, and then they had 20 to 30 inches upstate out of that one.
yeah,
Excuse me.
and 40 plus in Binghamton.
And
But then what has happened since? Nothing.
it's been remarkably silent after since.
Incredible.
Now I do have a Briller Jeopardy here for you somewhere. I got to go back on Messenger. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this was back. I think this was back a week ago, and we didn't use this.
By the way,
Um,
259 people are watching, 94 likes.
oh, so
So
we
come
just
on,
need
folks.
6 more, folks. Get us to 100. We like it when we go over 100. 100 is a good place to be. Okay, so here's Briller Jeopardy for today. So let's see if the chat board wants to play along too. The chairman sent this back a week ago, and I forgot that he did, but here it is. So, question one: how many times has New York City Central Park had back-to-back 50-inch snowfalls?
Back to back, you mean like one year gets 50 and then the next year gets 50?
Yes.
Well, I know a few years ago they made a big to do about the fact we had four consecutive 40-inch
Right. That was
snow years.
2002, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 5, 6.
So let's see, two 50-inch snowfall years. And usually when you get one like 50, you don't get the next year usually doesn't come anywhere near that. Um, I'm trying to think. 1960, 61, there was a lot of snow at Central Park.
Right.
I'm going to say, I'll say the winter of 60, 61 and the winter of 61, 62.
No.
Now,
Well, how many times has it happened that we've gotten back-to-back 50s?
was this a trick question?
No,
I,
it's not a trick question. How many times have we had back-to-back years of 50 inches plus?
I would have thought it was unique. I would have thought if it did happen, it only happened once. You mean to tell me it may have happened more than once?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. How about 47 and 48?
No,
No.
that's not in there. But
Yeah.
you don't even have to guess the years. You just have to guess how many times it happened.
Oh, okay. Well, I would say I was going to say one. How about let me 3 times.
It's happened 3 times.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good.
it happened in 1915, 16, and 17. Okay,
Okay.
so it actually was 3 years in a row. I'm sorry, 1915, 16, and 1916, 17. So those 2 winters back to back. The
Okay.
next two happened in the last 20 years. In 2009, 2010, and 2010, 2011. And it also happened in 2013, 2014, and the following winter, the follow up winter of 2014, 2015.
Wow.
So it's happened 3 times and twice in the last 20 years.
Good Lord. I knew. Of course, you remember the Snowmageddon winter, but I didn't realize that we had back to back those kind of numbers. It's amazing.
Now, how many times have we had? How many times have we had 50 inches or more?
Oh well, I think we 50 inches or more. I think we've had three winters where we've had 50 or more inches.
We've actually had 17 winters with 50 or more inches.
Really?
Well, Joe, we just did the whole thing with the back to back. So there's 6 right there.
Well, four
No,
back to
6.
back, back to back,
Okay,
back to.
hold on,
Oh yeah,
everybody.
yeah. That's you're
Right,
right. You're right. You're right. Okay.
right. So we had 6. So there have been altogether there have been 17 winters and since 1869 that produced 50 inches or more of snow.
See, in my mind, I was thinking like we had a plethora of years where we've had like 40 or more, and maybe just two or three with 50, maybe one with 60, and of course, 75 was the winter of 95, 96. So
Right.
it's
Um,
like an accordion here.
yes. How many times has New York City had at least 60 inches?
Oh boy. All right. Um, well, again, I don't really think we've had a whole heck of a lot of those kind of winters. Three, four, something
5.
like that. Five. All right.
5. And the last question is, what do the winter? Well, we've already discussed this. What do the winters of 2003, 4, 5, and 6 all have in common?
40 inches
Right.
of snow, four
And that was
consecutive.
also a record. It was the first time that New York City produced. And by the way,
I
the new New York City Central Park normal now for snowfall on the new 30-year normals apparently is at third. I don't know what I don't know if it's 30 point something, but it has a 30 handle on it. So
so
whatever.
they did finally change that because it was 25.7 and now it's
Right.
now it's 30.
So we went actually the prior 30 years it went from 21 I think 20 or 21 to 25 as one snowless decade fell out, another snowy decade came in. So we went from 20 to 25 to 30.
And I don't know if you remember, but in
And
the
30 is the long-term average, by the way. If you average out since 1869, it comes out to about 29.
if you remember that string of four consecutive years with 40 plus, I remember in year four that it was at 39.9, and we were late in the winter season, and we had maybe six snowflakes fall down. And really, that shouldn't have qualified for anything more than a trace. But whoever was taking the measurements, must have looked at the records and said, what the hell? and made it a point one, making it four straight
Well,
40.
it did snow. It did snow one last time to put them over the top, and they did sneak in the point one. Yeah, I guess. Well, why not?
Why not, indeed?
Why not indeed? All right.
120 likes. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thanks as always to Steve Wetzel, Steve Lapointe hitting super chat tonight. Joe and I Definitely, we always appreciate those of you who hit super chat. Thank you so much.
Tim Veltman, by the way, on the chat board says, I saw 28.6 for Central Park 30-year average. I guess someone was off somewhere.
Yeah, it's roughly 28.6. I said I just rounded it up to 29. Um, so yeah, I think it's 28. One time I actually sat down and added up all the years and divided it up by the number of years, and I think I came up with it came up to out to 28.5. I
Okay.
did this years ago, years and years ago. It was
Then you had a lot of
28.5.
time on your hands.
Yeah, during those winters where it wasn't snowing, you
Yeah,
just go back and start doing statistics
right.
because you're trying to find anything to get a snowflake out of this. So anyhow, uh, I guess we'll call it a night.
8:14. We've been on for what, 46 minutes or whatever? Or,
Roughly 45 minutes, so that's a pretty good show.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe
I think
maybe
so.
maybe maybe we'll have something more to talk about tomorrow,
Or next month.
next month. Yes, we'll see. Hey, you never know. The December system didn't show up until late till late, and maybe with all this noise around, something might pop up that isn't there on the map. I don't know. In
It
the
has
mean,
happened before, within
yeah,
like,
and in the
like 3 days
meantime,
notice or whatever.
I mean, it would seem odd that in a month that it's really not overly warm, that we would go the entire month of January and not see a flake or an ice pellet. I mean, we still have 20 days,
Right.
so a lot can change in the next 20 days.
Well, we'll see.
All right, folks. Thanks for being here tonight. We really appreciate it as always. So we will see you tomorrow. Again, for those of you who are on my weather platform on Patreon, there's a weather in 10 video. So if you didn't understand the chaos here, I go over it again, so you won't understand it the second time around when you see it on the members only video. So have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night. What?
Ugh.